Ayun. How's everybody doing today? Thanks for being here. Thanks for Keith Williams, the mighty Keith Williams from 5 Watt World, filling in for Phil on the moderation. So a few things. First up, all my courses are 20% off if you go to my website, Jeff-McErlain.com. And this actual groove is on my Blues Rock Grooves, Volume 1. And that track is on there, and I break this down. We talk about a bunch of stuff in there. And if you could see in the description, you have the link to my background tracks that you can get off of Bandcamp. Of course, my record, I'm Tired, which is the title track of the opening music. That's my tune called I'm Tired. And the next record after that is Now, featuring Robin Ford. Okay, there we go. So let's talk about this lick. All right, so yeah, I see a lot of people saying things like Catfish Blues, which it is. But I think the earliest, it's Muddy Waters, guys. It's Rolling Stone Blues. Now, of course, there's guys who had previous things before that, great English, previous things before that. You hear these kind of things from Lightnin' Hopkins, but Lightnin' Hopkins kind of the 60s as well. So it's Muddy Waters, Rolling Stone Blues, where the band got their name. And what's so great about this lick is I feel like it spawned a whole generation of rock and roll. Hendrix, obviously. Talk a little about Sabbath and people who followed playing this same kind of this lick. So the first thing is from the Chess Records era. I don't remember exactly what records on. I always had kind of the compilations. So Rolling Stone Blues, and the lick is. Right? Now, what's cool about this lick is, well, one thing to practice, it's 1 bar long. And there's 2 phrases to it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1. So if we check out the first part, it's all off of E minor pentatonic scale, excuse me, in the open position. So I have my low E, top 2 strings, the E and the B string. I can either play that hybrid picked, which I do a lot. And then here's the tricky part at first. So I'm going to go in the 2nd fret. I've got this A note. I'm going to bend up whole step, well, sort of whole step. Release and pull off. And go to my E right here on the 4th string on the 2nd fret. All right, so. Like that. Then you go back down to your low E string. So to me, that is one idea, one phrase. 1. Right? Okay, now the second half of the phrase, as you heard, dog's trying to get it. Right, so there's the phrase, and somebody said there should be a dog involved. My dog is trying to get into the room. Okay, so hold on, let me let my dog in. On camera, live. Hold on. Come on, Bo. He's gonna sit there and scratch up the door if not. There we go. All right. Hey, how's that for live television? Here's Bo. Come on, Bo. Bo is a rescue. We got him from Puerto Rico, and he's chewing on my guitar strap. Let me say hi to Bo. All right, it's live, you know. Let's keep it this way. Just don't step on my pedals. All right, buddy. So the phrase, when you put it together, is a beginning and a second part. So. Right, so you want to have the 2 together. It's really important to think about that. 1 and 2 and 3. Now, the most important thing above all, in my mind, is going to be keeping what I kind of call the heartbeat. So it's this. So, sorry, goes over there. I don't know if you can ease off camera. So this is the main thing. So when you listen to someone like Muddy Waters singing it, he kind of turns it around a little bit. He doesn't play it exactly the same way each time, which is part of the beauty of it. It keeps it kind of like a living, breathing thing. I was trying to look for the chat here. Well, I'll get it in a minute. So it's like a living, breathing thing. So this is that main heartbeat, like boom. And that's the most important thing. And one, and 2, and 3, and 4. And it gets a little bit of bounce. 1, and 2, and 3. So all the fills that I would do need to come back and land on that downbeat back in time. Right? Right? So that's one thing you really want to work on. Without that, it doesn't really mean much. So that's really more important ultimately than that lick. So if we think about that lick on its own, Hendrix did it and called it Catfish Blues, and that's another name of the song, Catfish Blues. They talk about catfish blues, swimming in the water. For the catfish, I'd go down. Yeah, the whole thing. So Catfish Blues off the blues record by Hendrix. And the point I had on this, it's a 1-chord blues. There's never really a 4-chord or a 5-chord. It's just this one long chord. I think on the Hendrix version, if I remember it, I can't remember. On the Muddy Waters version, though, he does go to a 4-chord. So that would be like a bridge. So this is on the 1 chord for a really long time. Don't quote me on Hendrix doesn't go to the 4 chord. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I listened to it. But the Muddy one, he definitely goes to the 4 and the 5 chord, but a lot further in on the song. So it's almost like the bridge at that point. Now, what's kind of cool is the song is all about building up excitement, and definitely the Hendrix version of it is really super dynamic because he's playing with the band. And the recording I have here, I tried to get some dynamics so it goes up and down. You play harder and softer. But throwing in those fills. All E minor pentatonic. And that was a longer fill. I just kind of went with it, right? I went over the bar line, but that's cool because I brought myself back into, right? To that part. So now I can start throwing in some fills in there. Kind of really the big ones are, you know, E minor pentatonic fills, going up high and low. This is with the big Hendrix stuff that he does too. And a little univibe on, right? So you're throwing in that fill there, but you have to come back. Right. There you go. Strat, Brooklyn, noise. Not much you can do about it. All right, so what other songs are based upon this? Why do I think this is the coolest lick in rock and roll or in blues? Because it inspired so many things. If we think about Voodoo Child, right? So we have Catfish Blues. Let me slow it down, or kind of speed up. So you're kind of hearing Voodoo Child. So Voodoo Child is... So it's the same exact lick, just turned around. Pretty cool, right? The thing that jumped out to me in Sabbath, War Pigs, so he does that like... Same kind of groove to me. It comes out of that whole thing. Are You Gonna Go My Way? The Lenny Kravitz tunes based on this, and so many other things. ZZ Top, Brown Sugar. Right? You know? Right, and kicks into that. To me, it's all the same thing. In fact, it is exactly the same lick. So, this is why I think this lick is so important to play. What's also nice about it is you can use it as your framework for you to just sit around and play a blues, whether you're with a track or not. The dynamics are important, especially if you played it by yourself. Right? Right? So really think about the dynamics as you're playing. It's going to draw people in, as opposed to it's terrible, right? So and all your fills, E minor pentatonics. This is a great way. You're building up the framework in which you can practice putting in fills in time to get you down, get you back to that downbeat. All right, cool. One of my favorite tunes. Definitely check out the original, Muddy Waters, Rolling Stone Blues, and then the Catfish Blues, and many, many other versions of this. And like I said, it's on my True Fire course, Blues Rock Grooves Volume 1. Talk about it in depth there, too. Okay, so let's see if there's any questions. So thanks so much once again. Phil is stuck in traffic. He had an appointment he had to go to. So good for Phil, stuck in New York City traffic. All right, so for all you guys, I have a tip jar if you want to hit that. I appreciate that. That's in the description. And also, if you're interested, if you like what I am doing here, you can certainly support me by going to my website, and there's courses there if you like those, my blues courses over from TrueFire. If you buy them on there, there's a code live20, and it gives you 20% off. Also, background tracks and my record and things that are on Bandcamp if you're digging that. So if any questions, let me know. All right. So, yeah, War Pigs, nice connection, right? It was one of those kind of funny things that when I had figured out, I was like, oh man, that's like Hendrix, and that's like Muddy Waters, and that's like all these other things. All right, so let me just talk about what Evil is. Well, here's Evil, by the way. A good thing because Bo would have probably chewed on him if you were on the floor, so I'll just put Evil on the Marshall. All right, let me get some questions if there are any. Okay. All right. Not finding so many questions. It's hard to look through these. And that's what Phil always does. And though, thank you, Keith, for doing a great job too. All right, well, let's talk a little about the guitar and what I'm playing and how this stuff can work. First thing I'm doing, well, I'm playing a Strat, obviously. And I'm really playing off of, you know, I saw me turning up and down the volume knob. Right? I can roll this back. So I'm really thinking about, I'm always riding the volume knob on a guitar. And one thing I'm doing on the Strat is I dial, like there's videos I've done on the Les Paul, I do one on the Strat too. And I dial in the amp for the neck pickup. And then when I go to my bridge, I have a tone knob on my bridge. And I kind of dial that in to where it matches the neck pickup, just like I do on my Les Paul. So if I have it all the way up, it's a bit sharp, and it's not my favorite sound on a Strat. I like to kind of balance them out a little bit more. And so I'm playing with the Strat to see differently than a Les Paul, because you do have to play differently with humbuckers, and I see there's a similar kind of question, and I'll talk about that in a sec, is when you hit a Strat hard, single coils seem to have, as you were saying, a larger dynamic range than a humbucker. So that's from Kentar, right? Would you say single coil guitars equipped have a bigger dynamic range as opposed to PAF style humbucker? I do, yeah. For this kind of thing, for sure. You know, like this kind of like Strat thing, for sure. But a good humbucker can get kind of close, but I feel like, yeah, Strat's definitely got a wider dynamic range than a Les Paul. The only thing I had on the floor, a little bit delay, right? And then a boost, and a univibe. Let's go for the whole Hendrix vibe, right? So. And reverb. There you go. So that's all I got rocking on the floor. And it's an Axe-Fx. Yeah, this is the Axe-Fx FM3. I've been working on some patches, you know, kind of tweaking it myself, and boy, it's good. Yeah, I am in standard tuning. That's a great question. Now, I'm so glad you brought that up. Excellent. So check this out, though. Because my track was in standard tuning, if I go down a half step, which this other guitar is tuned to, there's a sound that E flat gives you that I love. Right? It's got that great thing going on. So there's a sound with low with that E flat that really has a cool thing, especially with Strats or single coils. I don't always love E flat with Les Pauls, maybe because I think it's a scale thing going on. I'm assuming, but Strats tuned down to E flat is one of my favorite sounds, but that kind of creates problems when you want to play with other people and they're not tuned down a half step and all that kind of stuff. Changing string gauges. These are still 10s, but I just brought them down a half step. All right, so got some questions. Oh, Top Chat, thank you. My knees hurt. Thank you for everything. Loving these Wednesday shows. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here regularly as you are. Steve Moore, thanks for your great courses. How do you pick your fills? Practice and messing around, right? So let's just stay in E flat for a second. Well, and listening to other people. So if I'm listening to Jimi, like, you're only going to have this kind of like this. You could fake the univibe by doing that, but that. So always come back, like I said, into time. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 2 and 3. Right? Always bring it back to time. Right? So even if I kind of flub something like I kind of did there, you cover up your tracks by getting back in time. Super important. The time is going to be more important than, sometimes more important than the lick, right? Because if you did like I did there, it was cool, it was fine, but it wasn't perfect, and I kind of messed up the time a little bit, but I got back in on my downbeat, so you buy it. And that comes through practicing and playing a lot, but practicing that kind of thing. Okay. Get back up. How far off the beat should I take it to make it swing? When's too much, as Graham Ross? I don't know, man. It's whenever it feels good. And I kind of go for like a creative visualization angle in my head a lot of times. If I'm thinking about Jimi, I think about Jimi Hendrix, or I think about the players I like. And they're not very stiff when they play. Jimmy Page with the swagger. All these guys have a great feel. Keith Richards. So when I think about them, when I play that kind of stuff, I'm really always thinking about even the physicality of it to help with the swing of it, if that makes sense. And then record yourself and be really brutal. And you listen back and go, yeah, that ain't happening. So it's important that you do that too. Hopefully that helps answer that question. Do I follow a backbeat? Yeah, I'm always thinking about 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, right? And you listen to that groove, it's the backbeat. The snare drum's on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, right? And 2 and 3. So I'm always feeling that, like 1 and 2 and 3 and, oh, that's right. He's an E, I'm an E flat. I was like, what's going on? Okay, so, right? Right? So playing on behind the beat, I don't have any great exercise for that other than listening, emulating, listening, critically emulating, listening, and critically emulating. All right. When do you choose to, this is from Bill 1949. When do you choose to switch pickups, or is it just intuitive to you? It's intuitive at this point. Just maybe for a sound that I want. There's no conscious thing about, I'm going to go to the neck pickup. Just certain sounds sound really cool. Like if I want to do that faux, well, I want to get the univibe thing. And the bridge sounds cool too, but sometimes in the middle, I just will go with, I don't know, whatever I'm feeling at that moment. But that's what's fun about it. It's continuously changing the timbre of your voice, right? As we kind of do when we're speaking, right? I mean, we're not going to high-pitched sounds, but we change the quality of our voice when we're speaking. So right? So it really just makes it more interesting. A lot of experimenting and messing around. And what you can almost do just for an exercise is to overdo it, right? Just keep on changing pickups to the point of where you might think it's ridiculous, but if you listen back, it might actually sound pretty good. Hey Glenn, what's up, man? Glenn Gilbrecht. What boost are you using today? It's the line 6. It's not line 6. Oops. No, it's Axe-Fx. I don't know what it's. I don't know. It's one of the boosts that's inside the Axe-Fx, but sure sounds good, doesn't it? What I would normally use in something like that if I were plugged into my Marshall or T-Rock, like the Klon, any kind of clean boost for that kind of thing, overdriven amp, just like this. Not a ton. And sometimes overdrives, they can tighten up an amp too. If things are getting a little flubby, use something like a tube screamer or any kind of drive pedal, put a little drive in there and it can make the amp sound a lot tighter. It's one of those things that real metal guys, the super heavy guys use. I'm talking about like I don't even know the names of the band. Super heavy bands. We use a tube screamer or something like that in front of the amp just to tighten up the sound of everything. All right, so that's one of the tricks about it as well. All right, so do I have my own hat line coming out? No, but maybe, hey, never say never, right? Are you hitting the treble strings E and B with your index and ring finger? Yes, I am. I'll either do two things. I'll do like that, right? Or I might go using my middle finger. Like that. Or two fingers. Right? Yeah, so middle finger sometimes, and the ring in middle. All right. Can you recommend a course to help you improve your knowledge on rhythm blues? Yeah, sure. A number of my courses. Depending where you're at, the Blues Guitar Survival Guide Rhythm Edition, I think that's covers a lot. If you want to build up repertoire, which is really important, I think my 30 Authentic Blues Grooves course. If you've been playing for a long time and you think you want something a little more advanced, that would be the Advanced Blues Guitar Rhythm. But the first one I would say is my Blues Guitar Survival Guide. There's a lead version edition and a rhythm one. That's a great place to start. Thanks for asking. Appreciate it. All right. I'm hearing the backing track way out of time with your playing. Anything different with the audio? It's really obvious. No, I don't know what's going on because it didn't seem that way to me. Can't say. It's all coming out of the same place. So who knows? Yeah, different tuning again. All right. Do you practice while standing, and how often? Yeah, I definitely practice standing up for many things. I actually sometimes like the way I play better standing up. When I'm sitting down, I find I can play certain things, like faster things, sometimes better standing up. It's super important to play standing because you spend your whole life sitting down and you get on a gig and you're like, uh-oh, I can't play that. Or, if your guitar is sitting here and you stand up and then you want to be on a gig where the guitar is this high because it looks super dorky, you may not want to do that. So you really want to practice playing at the height that you want the strings to be at, right? That you want the guitar to be at. And then you also want to practice any kind of music you're going to be playing or run through the set of the show at height. Because if not, you're going to, it's going to be really tricky because you're going to get there and go, oh, crap, I can't play this right now. Itching for a Strat. Nice, Strats are great. Do you think Billy Gibbons recorded Brown Sugar with Les Paul? Yeah, it sounds like it to me, right? It's got that kind of sound to it. I could be wrong. I mean, who knows? But right? Yeah, it sounds like it to me. All right. Are you... no, please change background track to standard tuning. The background track is in standard tuning. What had happened was that Tuttle, the white guitar, the Telly I picked up, that was in E flat. Somebody's talking about E flat. So the actual background track is in standard tuning. All right. Are you listening to studio monitors? Yes, I am. Yeah, just listen to, I don't really have a great studio monitor, just M Audio ones. There's nothing crazy great. 3-card Monty. Billy Gibbons or Joe Walsh? Oof. Geez, I love them both. I would say Billy has had more of an influence on me, but lately I've been listening to a lot of Joe Walsh, and he's awesome too. But probably Billy for overall what I've stolen, you know? So definitely Billy Gibbons and those tunes. Not that, no, well, Joe Walsh got great tunes too. Go back and listen to Living a Life of Illusion. Yeah, that song. Jeez, man, what a tune. Walk Away, all of it. He's great. Turn to Stone. Okay. Yeah, thanks everybody for hitting the tip jar. You can do that in a number of places. I think the link's there. There's a Venmo at Venmo Jeff-McErlain, Jeff-McErlain, and then there's a Gmail. I'm sorry, Gmail. Excuse me. There's a PayPal. This is the same backing track as the Blues Groove Course #1. Yeah, that's one of the questions. Yeah. But man, you know, Joe Walsh. Jeez, I mean, think about. I mean, what he did for the Eagles. I've never been a huge Eagles fan. I've been more a big Joe Walsh fan. But there's a great version, you can find it on YouTube, of a live version of the James Gang with him playing Walk Away. And the solo section's a little different. It's kind of earlier, and it's just so heavy, and it's so good. And you can tell it is so loud. You can just hear like the recording. You know, you just know that it is blisteringly loud, and it's so great. So I'd highly recommend you check that one out. All right. Any more questions, guys? Okay, you know, let's quick question, Scott Ross. Hey, what's up, Scott? Look, sounds like it wants to go into a turnaround. Now, interestingly, I would not necessarily put a turnaround on that one. And here's the reason why. You could do, now you're going to go to the 4 chord. Watch. Something that takes it out of the sound. To me, this is really... It's not this. It's not that major, and it's not fully minor, even though you are playing a flat 3 as a G. But when I do this turnaround, it makes it super kind of happy sounding, and it brings it into another realm that isn't, I think, what the first part of the tune is. So if you listen to Hendrix play this groove and Muddy Waters, they don't do a turnaround. But Scott, that's a great question. I wouldn't normally do a turnaround on this one because I feel like it doesn't fit fully properly. Paul Schwartz, thank you so much for the top chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, this is from Zita. Hey Zita, how you doing? Do you suggest working that out with a metronome? For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's really what's going to be your groove, right? Or a drum beat. Yeah, definitely having the metronome carry that through is great. When you play with the Muddy version, which is a ton of fun, but his time is a little fluid in the best way. I don't mean it's bad. I mean it's live, and it goes a little bit up here and there and up and down, and it's really effective and really, really cool. All right. So thank you for that question, Zita. You were at the James Gang and the ZZ Top records back in the 70s with those two greats. Yeah, such good stuff. Which amp model and cabinets are you using for the FM3? This is so funny. Just getting into this and people are asking these questions. I'm like, oh. All right, so this is the Band Commander. So it's a Fender a Bandmaster, and the cabinet. This is like a whole new world for me. Is the Legacy 103 basket weave. There you go. I'm just laughing because I'm really enjoying this thing. It sounds great. It's really nice to have this option. Like, it's a great tool. Right? It really just sounds good. And it cleans out great. Good playing there. This patch I have set up at the moment is a little bit more for strats, so I would probably tweak a little bit. So, you know, here's one of the funny things about amps versus these things. Like if I was using my 2-rock, I would just go, oh, let me just turn the gain down here and the treble. With these units, there's a little bit more stuff involved that I'm not at that point yet. I just started getting into this, that I'm not going to lean over and start to look through windows and things. But so for gigs, depends on the gig. For my gigs and gigs with like Rob and all that, definitely real amps. But I could see where this would come in great if you're playing like a really well-rehearsed show and you need specific effects at certain times. Because lots of bands are using these that you may not even know that are using them. Okay. I really love the EP. This is from Bill. You really love my the Now EP full-length record. And It's Your Groove Head is awesome. Thanks. That's a fun one. That's just built off a diminished scale. Right? Yeah, it's pretty kooky. It's kind of, that came out of, it's also on my first record, that record. And what happened was, that song came out when I was gigging a lot in New York City with my trio. That just kind of developed. And then I started jamming it with Robin when we played. And it was fun to hear him play over something like that you don't normally hear him play over that stuff much anymore, like that kind of Miles Davis, 70s, 80s Miles Davis funk stuff that I love so much. So we did it a bunch of times on some gigs and at the workshop we did together. And I was trying to write something like it. And then he was like, well, why write something new? Let's just do that. Okay. Okay, that's what you want to do. And he plays great on it. That's a fun one. That's a really fun tune to jam on. Okay. Will Rowe, hey, thanks Will, for always brilliant. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. Zita, thank you so much for the top chat. Thank you. I appreciate all the support, everybody. Thank you so much. It's great. I can keep on doing this. Thank you so much. Which live version of Muddy Waters are you referring to? I'm not. I'm referring to, let me get the exact one name for you. Hold on. I'm looking at my iTunes, and Yeah, Where is it? Oh, we got a lot of songs called Rolling Stone, or have called Rolling Stones, or the Rolling Stones. Hold on. Yeah, it's just off of the Chess Years from 1940 something. It's a chess collection that's got that and Long Distance Call and all the old stuff, you know, from the chess era. I'll try to find it. It's not in my iTunes right now. I hate searching on iTunes. Like 8,000 things come up, and I find it really frustrating. All right. Thanks for all the likes. Certainly it helps on the YouTube. Top wrap or through wrap on the Les Paul. This is from Mason. I've always just kind of through wrapped. I did have another Les Paul that I top wrapped, and it just was too slinky for me. And it could be great on this one. I don't know. It feels really great the way it is. I just kind of like it. So I'm not really going to mess with it. But one thing that I find important is, you know, the action, not studio action. I do have it as low as I can get it to go, the tailpiece, before it actually touches the back of the bridge, right? You know, that little piece after you come off the saddle. I don't want it touching that because that feels like then you're hitting this other thing. So it sits freely open there, but this is as low as you can go. This is pretty much touching the body, which the camera's not really got the focus going on, but it's pretty much flat against the body. I like that feel, but every Les Paul is different. I played ones where I had to raise it up a little bit because it was a little too tight. So you got to mess with them. So this one, I think, it feels perfect the way it is. I'm just not even going to mess with it. Just play. I love the way it plays. Wound G string or no? Oh, hell no. No. I don't have those kind of hands. I am like 5'9" and 140 pounds. So I don't, you know, I'm using 10s. I can't use 11s. My hands can't. I don't have those kind of hands. And not that I feel old, but, you know, the older you get, you know, I don't want to hurt my hands. I already have enough injuries that I've gotten from just playing for 40 years, you know. Nothing terrible, but just some things I have to stay on top of, right? So switching to heavier gauges or wound G strings, I want to be able to bend that string. Oop. Right? Right, I want to be able to bend that easily. So no wound G string for me. Essential solos that suggest that you learn. For rock and roll, man, there's so many. I have all my students learn Strange Brew by Cream, which is actually also an Albert King solo. I think it's a solo from Crosscut Saw, if I'm not mistaken. Clapton does it at the beginning of Strange Brew, and the main solo of Strange Brew is just so great because you can take all those licks, plug them in everywhere. It's like a brilliant thing to learn. Other solos that I guess that I learned a lot from, Sunshine Your Love. I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from I think of some Jimmy Page stuff, but it's a tough question. If you're talking rock and roll, you got to learn Hotel California. You have to learn that. That's a brilliant solo. I've learned a bunch of Michael Schenker solos that I've learned from. Definitely Jeff Beck stuff, like Cause We Ended as Lovers, and Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. Learned a bunch of stuff from him. A bunch of Clapton stuff. Badge, I think, was really instructional for me. Spoonful, the studio version, the live version, which is one of my favorites, is just, that's a beast. If you have the time and the effort, and Crossroads, as Richard just said right there, is another brilliant solo to learn. It's a lot of work, but it's a great one. It's a great one. I'm sure there's going to be a million solos I forgot to say, but those are some handful of ones. You know, any Albert King stuff, if you can dig into that, Albert King and Albert Collins, for sure, you know. All right. That looked like I might have to drop out there for a second. String break angle. I don't know. It's just whatever. Are you saying that's called? What is my string break? I don't know. Just I have it, the bridge down as low as it can go, and then whatever it turns out to be. And my action, I guess, would be considered straight on medium lowish. Not super low, because I don't like low action. And I don't like really high action. Stepping Out's another great solo for sure. Excuse me one sec, guys. Kid Charlemagne, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, sure. You want to get more fusion-y? Talk to Your Daughter was big for me. That was a great one. Kid Charlemagne. I'm just kind of drawing a blank, guys. Anything by Robin's going to be great. Anything playable. Anything by Larry Carlton is going to be great if you're talking that kind of stuff. Rock and roll. Man, any of the classics. David Gilmour. Okay. I can't believe I forgot Gilmour. Oddly, which I'm really crazy, I can't believe I forgot Gilmour, because my course is coming out with Brett Papa maybe about tomorrow or the next day. We're confirming that. Any moment now. Brett Papa, who actually called while I was on the live thing here. I got a course coming out with Brett where I focus in on Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, and David Gilmour. So it's called Blues Rock Masters, and it's the British edition. So you can tell I got some other guys coming up soon too. And I just kind of dig into ways that, going over not how to sound like them, yeah, but not how to sound like them as your end goal. The idea is like, here are really key essential things that Jimmy Page does. And if you want to start digging into Jimmy Page, this is a great way to dive into it. Similar to Clapton, especially the Cream era. Like, these are a lot of things Clapton did at that point in time. And here's about one long solo and 5 licks, and I break them down and talk about the feel and the time and the tempo. Kind of what we do here, but way deeper with background tracks and everything like that. So that's coming out any day, so stay tuned. I think I'm gonna have Brett on the show next week. We're gonna do a bunch of stuff, so you'll know when it's out, for sure. For sure. Rock You Like a Hurricane, that's a great solo. Oh man, all the metal stuff, yeah, of course, all sorts of stuff like that. What strings are you using these days? This is from Glenn. I am using Diodario XL 10s on both the Gibson and the Fenders, or Fender scale length, and the PRS. So I'm just using 10s. You know, I think Tom Minette, you were saying that Kirk was telling you to put 11s on your Les Paul. Yeah, Kirk's a much bigger guy than me. So for 11s on him are great. For me, you know, screw it, you know. I think the whole heavy string thing, and this isn't any disrespect for guys who use heavy strings, I think it's just whatever works for you. And I don't think it's that important when we've always got the same cliches. B.B. King used light strings, Billy Gibbons used light strings. You know, a lot of the metal guys, not 8/9s, you know what I mean? Things like that. So I don't get too crazy about the heavy string gauge. I started to, and big necks, and I was like, just can't play this fucking thing because this neck's too big and the strings are too heavy. So I gave up on all of that. I like 10s. Yeah, the old Strat I was playing earlier, it's much more difficult to play than the Les Paul. Some days I should feel like I should put 9.5s on it, and who cares? As a friend of mine said, it was a guitar tech of mine, I was saying to him, I was thinking about putting 11s on the Les Paul. He's like, yeah, that's great, man. Who are you trying to impress? Me? And I'm like, that's a good point. It's like, just play, have fun, enjoy playing it. And I know a lot of my friends did the same thing. Like Robin, 10s on his Les Paul, 10s on his Fenders. He just likes 10s. It works. Okay. That was those strings. Okay. It's by Gary Mosley. Jeff, you run your amps slightly dirty live. Do you use delay? And if you do you use amp loops? That's a great question. Yeesh. Depending on the gig. In New York, a lot of times I can't end up running my amp dirty enough for the volume where it sounds great. So if I'm using the Bloomfield drive, I'll run it clean and I'll use pedals, even for the overdrive. And then I'll run a delay after the overdrive pedal. If it's a bigger gig and I can really turn the amp up, I might do a bit of the 4-cable method where I got a cable running to the back of the amp via MIDI and run it to the front. It is a thing. It's a pain in the butt having delay before the amp. Some people make it work, like David Grissom runs it in front of his amp and he seems to make it work. For me, if I want to get that Pink Floyd thing. I really love that pillow of sound thing. The delay has to come after the amp. So the other thing I might sometimes do, as opposed to running this big long MIDI thing, is I'll just have you can do this fairly easily depending on certain pedals, like a Strymon timeline or the Volante. You can have a MIDI pedal hooked up to it, and it sits in the effects loop of your amp. And you can just step on that, so you're not running this. I don't ever run the 4-cable method. Like, I don't run long cables from the front of the stage to the back. I don't want to do that. I would run a MIDI pedal if I'm gonna really get into the delays. Have it in the effects loop of the amp. You just have the MIDI pedal running to the front of the stage. That's what I would do now. And I did that with Robin on a bunch of gigs until the Strymon freaked out on me on a gig and went all wet in the middle of the gig. So I just ran behind the amp and unplugged it, and I just didn't use delay the rest of the time, and I was, something, I was fine. So, do I work on my own guitars? Yeah, primarily. I mean, I'm not going to do anything major. I'm not going to do a refret. I set them all up. Yeah, general maintenance I do myself. I change pickups too, to greater or worse extent. So Phil's just texted me. He's in. Phil got here. Phil got home. So you can get online, Phil, whatever. Say hi. Yeah, I work on my own. I'll put in my own pickups, and generally pretty good. It comes down to having a good soldering iron, which I need to get. My old one, it's okay. I can do okay with it, but not so great. Comes down to a good soldering iron. Okay. Do you stick with one brand of strings, or do you try different brands? Jason Carter, no, man. I've been using Diodario's. I have an endorsement with them, but honestly, I've been using them since I started playing guitar. Tried some other companies, and I just never really. These just always work. I'm fortunate not to have those gunky hands where I don't go through strings super fast. So some people have to try different brands because they wear through strings so fast. I don't. I think they last. I can have strings on a guitar if I'm not gigging for like a month, and they're fine. So Diodario just has been really consistent. They always are in tune. I've never gotten, over my years of using Diodario strings, I've gotten like 2 or 3 bad strings, which can just happen. But other than that, Oh, that's a good little tip, by the way. If you put on new strings and you're playing your guitar and something that just sounds terrible, like you got a buzz and you don't know what happened, sometimes you get a bad string. And then it can be completely out of tune intonation-wise. You're like, what's going on? That's one aspect that can happen. The other one is that it could just be really buzzy, and you can't figure out why it's buzzing. So sometimes I change that string, and you're like, oh, wow, that was it. It was just a bad string. And of course, you're left with a pack with 5 strings in it after that, which is annoying, but, All right. Glenn, I know that the PRS DGT is set up with 11s initially, but I use 10s on it. Yeah. David likes 11s. David's always just used 11s. The bigger frets, 6105s, 6100s on it. I could probably go to an 11 on that guitar, maybe, but I don't know. I think a lot of it comes down to, and I was talking to David, we talk all the time, he's one of my really good friends. We talked about going to a lighter gauge of strings because you're not gigging. You're at home and you're like, oh man. And he was also talking about certain guitars find the strings that they want. Like I had a Collings 4R, which is really great. I love that guitar, but I had to sell it to get that Strat. I felt 11s were a little heavy for me and 10s were too light. So I tried 10.5s and they were perfect on that guitar. So I feel like sometimes guitars, certain guitars can favor like a certain string. It's really interesting. Experimenting. Do you use software to slow down a song to learn a solo? Absolutely, yeah. I do actually in the past, if you look through the previous lessons, I did a live video on figuring out a solo, and I use a software called Transcribe. There's a number of softwares out there that does it, but I like Transcribe. I've just been using Transcribe forever, and it may not be the prettiest looking one, but it is an excellent software. Okay. All right, so, all right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for being here. To me, it's all that same thing. It's all that same riff. So just go back to the top of the lesson here and just check it out. Muddy Waters. I think it's the coolest rock and roll riff. I think it's the coolest blues riff that inspired a ton of rock and roll tunes. And getting that one together builds up your time. Think about the dynamics. And I think it's really, for me, I love this one. Are you doing a live stream with Brett Papa soon? Yeah, probably next week. Stay tuned. And I'll be doing some stuff with him because we've got the course coming out any day now, and that's why he's calling me. All right, everyone, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you to Keith for helping out. And I also had a Phil who couldn't make it. Thanks so much, Keith. Thank you, everyone. Once again, all my courses, 20% off on my website, Jeff-McErlain.com. My record and jam tracks are on Bandcamp. That's all can be gotten through my website, Jeff-McErlain.com. And I hope you guys are doing well. So I will thank you, and I'll see you next week.